a beautiful night in the hood. It's a beautiful night in the hood. Gonna be hanging out in the hood.
Hi, welcome to Almost Cooperstown.
I'm Mark.
And this is Gordon, and we love talking about baseball. And we ringing in the new year. The voting has closed on the Hall of Fame class of 2022. Certain reports about the votes are already starting to come in. We're starting to see a pretty strong, I'd say, off the top of my head, the only guy I'd say that looks pretty likely to be in for sure is shockingly Ortiz. And David Ortiz looks like he's going to definitely be a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2022.
So let's just get right to it because you off
That's
there
bullshit.
you've talked right. I know you don't like this and you got a problem with this.
Like
Let's go there because Big Papi is well loved. It's his first year on the ballot, and I think that's probably the main reason you got an issue.
And that's why I have an issue, because the idea that you're going to tell me that a guy like Barry Bonds doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame at all because of his connection to steroids, which was never, I don't think, ever conclusively proven.
That's correct.
But Big Papi, who was on the exact same level of him, if not even worse, because I think he was linked to...
Nothing was ever proven.
He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Are you going to look me in the eye and tell me David Ortiz is a better baseball player than Barry Bonds?
It's like comparing, because we like Ortiz, Big Papi, so much more than we ever liked Barry Bonds. And, sure, you want to say Barry Bonds wasn't a likable character. There's been plenty of great baseball players who weren't likable characters. But, that's why we're gonna vote him into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot yet?
Here, I'll even go past that. You're going to tell me that David Ortiz deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Manny Ramirez, who I would take every day of the week as a better hitter than Ortiz, doesn't get to be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't know if Red Sox fans would agree with you.
But Manny was a better hitter.
As a pure hitter, I do agree.
That's all I'm going to say.
I do agree.
Who would you rather have up? I guess that's a tough question because then clutchness comes into it.
And obviously Ortiz he's probably in this conversation to a greater degree than he might be in his first year
because of his clutchness.
Because of his clutchness.
But Manny has the all-time MLB record for home runs hit in the postseason. The dude. It's not about, and I'm not saying Ortiz doesn't deserve to be a Hall of Famer. He does. But the idea that David Ortiz is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, well,
really
guys who I
huh?
perceive as better players than him aren't even in the Hall of Fame yet, bugs me. It seems wrong.
Yeah, and
it seems both puritanical and like a weird popularity contest where Big Papi gets a pass because the guys voting on him like him more than they like Bonds.
So, statistically, I just look at his D-WAR, right? And the fact that Ortiz even had a D-WAR is kind of interesting because I don't remember him doing much defensive playing other than, here and there.
Well, his defensive playing was pretty offensive.
So he had a negative 20.9 career D-WAR.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
It's a guy who didn't play much defense, so he had to, when he did play...
Which tells you when he did not play much when he got to Boston. So that was almost all with his what's a rather actually surprisingly lengthy time with the Twins. People don't realize he spent a fair number of seasons with them before he went to the Red Sox. But he had to be putrid with them.
He was there for 6 years.
Yeah.
Never hit more than 20 home runs.
And then he went to Boston and turned into a completely different offensive player.
And good for him.
And great for him.
Here's the thing. I like Big Papi.
I want him in the Hall of Fame. But it's not that I'm taking exception with the idea that David Ortiz should be in the Hall of Fame. It's that David Ortiz is in the Hall of Fame as a first ballot ahead of these other guys.
So by the way, Manny Ramirez's career D-WAR is negative 21.7. So they're right there neck and neck. When they did play, they weren't very good. But I will say this.
Manny actually played the field most of his career.
That's true. He had more defensive games played by a large margin.
More. So it's going to make more sense that his is going to be lower because he had way longer to accumulate being a bad defender.
So we're off to a running start here. There's 30 guys on the ballot, and Gordon you've already covered two of the guys, Manny and Ortiz, and I can speak for you in this way. We like both players. And
both of them. If I was voting, if I had a vote, both of them would be in on my ballot.
So here's what we're going to fool around and do a little bit here. So there's 10 guys you get to vote for on every ballot. So on our ballot, so to speak, that we have submitted recently, we said the 36 players, which we couldn't get to 36, we got to 35 players we put in the Hall of Fame. There are 6 people on the ballot that will, let's say, put them aside for now. Put them aside. So, and you get 4 that you can add, and I'll find my own 4.
So there's a couple guys on here that, like, Barry Bonds. If you're talking from a purely statistical standpoint, there is legitimately no argument that Barry Bonds doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
So he's one of the 6.
Like, if you're ever confused, just go and look at the 01 to 04 statistical period for Barry Bonds, and then just sit there and think about it for a minute, because it's honestly legitimately hard to wrap your head around it at points.
Even if you take David Gordon's CVI, Career Value Index, and you ding Bonds 25% for the years that he was doing steroids,
it's still
allegedly, he's still far and away a Hall of Famer. So now that I feel better about this now, because there's some sort of a metric that I can use, and there's guys, by the way, on this list. When I apply the CVI, it hurts them, and we'll get to guys like that. Yeah,
Manny is a guy we put in,
doesn't help him at all.
The CVI thing hurts him a lot. Now, another guy who is right there with Bonds, Clemens.
Yeah. So we had him.
Are we going to really pretend that Roger Clemens isn't a Hall of Fame pitcher? Really?
Yeah, do we have to talk about the kind of person he is and all this? No.
And that's going to come in later. The kind of person does not matter who these... it should be about who they were as baseball players. And steroids notwithstanding, the idea that somehow Roger Clemens got more of an advantage out of steroids than some crappy pitcher that pitched alongside him that also did steroids, but he just still sucked.
Here's what you can't do at the Hall of Fame, but it'd be really cool if you did. Right, so let's say we elect Roger Clemens, and we say, Clemens was one of the greatest pitchers of all time, dominating pitcher, but he was an asshole, and he's got to go to Cooperstown and get inducted, and they read his plaque in front of everybody.
Would that make people feel better if there was a little asterisk on his plaque? Come on.
And he did some questionable things, which we're not going to get back into that. So he's the second guy.
Now then there's another guy that we had on our list that's definitely in there, was Todd Helton.
Right, we put him in. He is not in.
He's not in.
So he would be one of our votes.
He would be one of our votes. He should be in.
That was for this year's ballot.
The same way, to me, it's ridiculous that they're, you know what, I'll say this, in the same way that it's ridiculous that guys get dinged for steroids, it's even more ridiculous that Todd Helton gets dinged for playing in Coors. Yeah. Are we gonna punish a guy because he was loyal to his franchise and stayed with them his entire career? That's ridiculous. We applaud guys for that, except for you, Todd Helton. You get punished.
So that's our third guy, and our fourth guy is, and I've heard him on the radio a lot lately and all that, and everybody that talks to him, Andrew Jones, the defensive aspect of it, it doesn't matter that he had a career batting average of 251. What matters is he's the greatest defensive center fielder to ever play.
Certainly.
Now, Willie Mays fans will get on me about this.
I was going to say.
So I didn't see Willie play in his prime.
And I was going to say, he is the best defensive center fielder since Willie Mays.
No doubt about that.
He was so good, he was able to play the position in a way no one else could.
Right. And he changed the game
because
of where he played. Right.
And because he was so good at going back on balls, that was something unique to Andrew Jones.
He also had 434 home runs.
Right.
So when we talk about Hall of Fame ball players, right, it wasn't that he was just an extraordinary fielder, because he might be Kevin Kiermaier then.
Yeah.
He was, but he's not.
All-time defensive center fielder and a fantastic power hitter.
So we had
another guy.
Yep.
This guy's another no-brainer.
Yep.
Even if you say the same thing with the steroids, come on, A-Rod's a Hall of Famer.
Yep. And again, he had the same plaque next to Clemens. He was kind of an asshole.
Did steroids. He's a Hall of Famer.
Put his foot in his mouth every time he opened it.
Because he was a Gold Glover at 2 positions.
I don't know if he won a Gold Glove at third base.
I know he won one at short.
I definitely won one at third.
And he was a very good defensive third baseman.
Yeah. I don't think people realize
one of the greatest hitters of all time.
And by the time he was allegedly linked to steroids, he had been in the major leagues for
years.
As
one of the most complete batters that's probably ever played baseball.
And because we don't want to belabor it, so the whole thing about steroids is that he was caught, he was banned for the year, so he served the time, and that time that he served, as it will with Robinson Cano, will affect his all-time statistics. Cano,
and they're still amazing.
And they're still amazing. In A-Rod's case, they're still amazing. So he goes in, and another guy, he's got a capital A on his plaque.
This is the other one where we're saying personality doesn't matter. Curt Schilling is not the most likable individual.
That's
to
putting
say the
it
least.
Mildly, yes.
Dude was a hell of a pitcher.
Yeah. You go to Cooperstown, you talk about the player, you talk about his positives, and yes, you should be able to talk about his negatives.
But the bloody sock game has to mean something. That was an all-time performance. Guys literally on the mound bleeding.
So those are our 6 guys.
Who should be in.
So who should be in? So if we had to submit one ballot for almost Cooperstown, then we would just add 4 more guys. So we can go past 4 guys if you want.
I ended up only adding 3 guys.
Okay, so why don't you throw your first guy? Now, it's possible that we're going to have some duplication
I'm pretty
here.
sure we're going to have a duplication on this first one because I honestly don't know how we missed him on our list of 36, and that's Scott Rowland.
Yeah, we talked about him all the time.
We don't know how, like, I think we honestly just ran out of third base. I think there was enough third basemen to put in over him that were left off.
So third base is like a dearth in the league. We talked about that. There's just not a lot of third basemen.
I don't know how we didn't have him.
I don't know. We fanned on that one, I guess, as far as and 100% he's on my list. So okay, go ahead, throw another one then, since I already have.
We talked about him, Manny.
Manny
should be in.
He is. Let's see. Do I have him on my list? I do. I hesitate because I think I added him late as I started adding to 10. So I think he should be, and he's a guy, as you said, if you ding him for his steroid use, again, there was no bones about it.
If you are a small hall person and you're willing to have steroids in the hall, Manny to me is about the break line. That's where I'd be about drawing my line. So if they're not better than Manny, I'm probably not putting them in. If you're a no steroid small hall guy,
so we've got 2 of the same guys, and I'll go with that right now because I just think one of the greatest right-hand hitters in the history of the baseball
career
game
average
should not be excluded from the Hall of Fame.
Right.
The most career home runs in postseason, 555 career home runs.
As feared a hitter,
dude could hit now.
Yeah.
Good get now. So okay, so that's another guy.
Now,
how about now you're getting into a guy. A guy I don't put in, but gets dinged more by the CVI thing. Unlike many, it's Gary Sheffield. So he's on the ballot. And I don't put him in because I think he suffers too much from his statistical.
He's Hall of very good. He's about where I want to draw the line.
Okay.
But I think we could talk about some of the guys that we don't put in. Now, weirdly, we thought we had this guy in for a little while, and then I'm glad we ended up not having him in because I think he's another Hall of very, very good guy, and that's Bobby Abreu.
Yeah, so you don't want him in.
I don't want him in.
Yeah, I think he's in. So on my list, he would be one of my guys. And I didn't love the player because he killed my team all the time.
I think he just falls a little short for me.
He and I think I made the comparison. He is, and they both have the same amount of letters in their name, right? Bobby Grich and Bobby Abreu both were really good at a lot of things, but they weren't outstanding, like in the all-time great at any one thing, and they get dinged for being a no-flaw player.
I mean, I think we can kind of go through this list here a little bit and just kind of knock off some names that I think we won't see a whole lot. Like, I don't think Burley's going to last on here. Burley was a good pitcher, but is Mark Burley a Hall of Fame pitcher?
His consistent career is better than you think, and he pitched a ton of innings. The guy just showed up every year, but I never considered him to be a Hall of Fame player when he pitched.
Because he was at best in any season, maybe in the top 5 pitchers in the AL.
Yeah, well, he was an all-star on multiple.
But that's what I'm saying. You could be an all-star and it's still a top 5. But if you're not even the best pitcher in your league in any one given season.
Well, and I'm trying to check right now. I don't remember who. He had other guys on his team who were sometimes, like in 05, he wasn't the best pitcher on the World Championship. White Sox.
There was another guy that was like a stud.
And I'm trying to think who the heck it was.
But I just think it's like the same like Carl Crawford and Prince Fielder. Like, I mean, they're both their first year on their ballot. I don't see either of them lasting on there a particularly long time.
No, neither of those guys. Prince Fielder, he had a nice start to his career,
and then
yeah.
The other guy that's like Ryan Howard might stick around a little longer.
No way.
Only because he has the traditional stats Hall of Fame voters like, but I think it's just going to be too short.
Which stat would that be?
He has a lot of home runs.
I don't even know if his career home runs are that high. He had one season.
No, he actually had a bunch. He had like 3. He had a bunch. He has more home runs than you'd think, I believe.
Career-wise?
Yeah.
Boy, I just remember that incredible season where he drove in like 150 runs. Yeah. So his career WAR. Take a guess at Ryan Howard's career
probably
WAR.
not great, like 10.
So okay. So I'm trying to think of the stats. So he has some black ink on his. So his career home runs. Let's go there first. Is 382. Yeah. More than I thought. He had a 58 homer season.
I thought it was. I was like, I thought he had more than 400.
And he had 58, 47, 48, 45 in 4 years in a row. So that kind of gets your attention. Negative 17 D WAR. Not surprising. I don't think anybody. How many 5 WAR years? 1.
Yeah. What's his career WAR?
14-7.
I was pretty close to the 10.
Yeah. I don't even know why you could talk about it. That's why I think
No, I'm just saying-
anybody. So no, his career ops at 125 is much higher than I would have expected.
That's why I'm saying he might. I don't think he'll be there, but he could stick around a
Ops
little
plus.
longer.
Yeah.
Tim Hudson, Torrey Hunter.
Yeah, well,
No.
Torrey Hunter gets a lot of support because he was a plus defensive player. I think he.
The
had
problem
a
is
very
that
high D-WAR.
Yeah,
Well, but he hit a lot of home runs
less than you think.
for a center fielder.
The problem is he got Jones.
Yeah, he hit a 277 for his career with 353 career home runs.
More than I
Hold
thought.
on there, sir.
I thought it was in like the 280 range.
Career D-WAR, however, was only 4 because he gave it up late in his career where he had some subpar defensive years. And let's see about the 5 years of 5 WAR. That would be 2. He had 2 5 WAR years. And a lot of every 4.7, 4.2, 3.8. So the guy was just a consistent player who played a lot of games. He played 2,300 major league games in 19 years.
That's a lot.
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer either, but I think he's a hell of a lot closer than Ryan Howard.
That's probably fair.
So a guy that I put in, but he only goes in now because we've already put in Gritch and Whitaker in our Hall of Fame. So you know where I'm going, and it's really hard for me to put him in because he didn't play for my team when he was good, and that's Jeff Kent.
I didn't have him in either.
Yeah, I just think Kent, when you look at that position, you look at the all-time home runs, you look at the MVPs, you look at the consistency of the guy's career, it was much better, and he was a much better defensive player than I thought. I don't know why I thought he kind of had a steel glove out there. And
He probably remembered his time for the Mets.
Yeah, maybe so. His career WAR was, D-WAR was nothing from nothing.
But he wasn't a minus.
He wasn't a minus fear. So he had a bunch of, WAR years, 7 WAR year, 2 7 WAR years, a 5 WAR year, but he only had 3, and then one at 4 5. And so he kind of falls below that metric of having 5 WAR seasons. But being at the second base position and delivering 377 career home runs with a 290 batting average, that
elevates you.
That's been 356 career on base average. There just aren't a lot of second basemen who do that kind of stuff. So that's why I would put him in.
Some of the guys that like some of the other guys that are up in that area, like Tim Lincecum, Morneau, even Joe Nathan is interesting to me more so than Lincecum or Morneau. Lincecum, maybe he gets some run, but I know Morneau probably.
I think, and let's see, I think you can't talk about Joe Nathan on this ballot until you combine him with Billy Wagner.
So we had to go to Wagner, and Wagner would always get my vote before.
Over Nathan.
Yeah,
I think, the knock against Wagner is the 903 career innings pitched, but you made the point.
That's not his fault.
Right, and so at the time he was closing,
that's what you
really
did.
Only threw the guy out there when he absolutely could only get a save.
And think about it this way: he only went and got a save. He had over 400 career saves.
422, I think.
422 when he
career whip of 0.9
when he only pitched 900 something innings, which means he pretty much always came in and got the save.
Right. So, and interestingly enough, because neither of them are on my list and neither of them on your list, that doesn't mean. And Wagner's support is about 50%.
Yeah,
45, 50%. He's pretty high.
I think he'll get in.
So I think he will. I think Nathan on that basis might get in too for the same reason.
The best thing Nathan has going for him is only his first season on the ballot.
True. He's got to wait. And now Papelbon, another closer. No.
Peavy, no.
Jake Peavy was a really good pitcher.
But that's a Hall of very good.
And there, how's our man Eddie Pettit in your mind?
I can't do it.
You're not voting for him.
I can't vote for him.
Will you ever vote for him?
I don't want to.
Yankee hater.
I can't do it. Eddie Pettit's not.
And Astro hater, by the way.
He's not. Come on.
Well, for the same reason, we look at the postseason career of Ortiz and say that, man, that excellence in the postseason, was Andy Pettit really that good in the postseason, or did he just pitch a lot for a really good team?
Yeah, you got to pitch in the postseason.
So AJ Przinsky is on the ballot. No. I shouldn't laugh because
because I know.
As a Hall of Famer, but again, a much more solid career than I even thought. So
then next was a bunch of guys, and then here is my last one.
Okay,
Jimmy Rollins.
I'm glad you put him in because I had him in too. So you had one less than me because I don't have any more.
Yeah, because you had Kendon.
Yeah, right. Jimmy Rollins. Again, it's really hard to vote for guys who killed your team all the time.
It was easier for me to vote for Rollins. Like, to me, I would rather put Rollins. Now, granted, this is not a first ballot thing. I don't think Jimmy Rollins is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, I don't either. But when you vote for guys, part of the reason you vote for guys is to keep them on the ballot.
No, which is what I say, which is dumb that we've somehow set up this weird thing where like it's a proportional vote every year unless you fall off, but also there's a prestige to being a first year guy. So like if you like a guy but you don't think he's supposed to be a first ballot hog, you have to play this weird game of arithmetic of figuring out whether or not you should vote for a guy.
And here's a point. So first year guy. So let's say you vote for a first year guy like Rollins. Well, then every year that he comes up on the ballot, you should vote for him again,
right?
Because you voted for him the first time. So
what do I have to like just,
did he get worse when he 20 years after he played? So yeah, I like Rollins, and it's interesting that both guys, those guys that you mentioned, Kent, that I put in and you didn't, they're middle infielders. So again, I soften my, just like I would for a catcher,
Rollins,
I'm widen my berth a little.
When you look what Rollins did, Rollins was a fantastic defender.
Yep.
Could hit for power. He did everything.
Yeah. MVP winner, won a championship, was a primary player on a championship team.
And it was just he was the kind of guy I probably would have loved if he wore orange and blue.
Oh, yeah. Well, he didn't. Yeah. So we already said, I already said, and again, that Sheffield, and here's the thing about Sheffield. I won't say no, never, but
there's too many other guys I would 100% put in before him on this.
How about Sammy Sosa? Where would he fall in your... This is like it for him, right?
I just don't.
Or is his 9th year? It might be his 9th.
No, this is last year.
Okay. No, huh?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He just hit home runs.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And he was part of a very fun, moment in baseball in 1998 that, makes you famous but doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame necessarily. Right. How about Mark Teixeira? I think
not yet.
He's a first-year player to get a better career than you think.
Really good defensive first baseman. Very good hitter. Not on this ballot, but I think he will be helped out by having weak ballots in the year to come.
So you expect him to stay on the ballot for a while?
He'll stay on the ballot for a little while, just because they're not going to. He'll stick on for a while. Vizquel.
I laugh because I don't think either one of us like this guy.
No,
I don't know why.
It's just hard. It's hard to give a soft like if I'm going to
played shortstop. Give him credit. He played for 150 years.
The problem is he was not Ozzie Smith good defensively.
Oh no, well that's you can't. It's hard to do that.
But if you're going to hit like that, that's what you need to be if you're going to be a Hall of Famer.
Well, Ozzie Smith actually was a better hitter than some guys like Rabbit Moranville and Rizzuto, who were in the Hall of Fame.
Right, but you got to be an I don't know. Vizquel is an all-time defender at shortstop.
I agree with you there very much, and I feel like, without making it pejorative, he was a compiler in every description.
He just played a lot of years. Because he was good enough defensively.
And then we had Billy Wagner on here. So what happens, those are the 30 guys, we've kind of gone through them all. What happens is that we vote for our guys, and then these guys hopefully stay on there that you hope you vote for someday and don't get less than the 5%, which kicks them off the ballot.
Now, if I had to say, looking at the ballot, the only guys I'm pretty confident, Papelbon will probably fall off and not get 5%.
I agree.
Morneau might get 5% and stick around.
I don't think so.
Crawford won't.
I don't think Peavy will get it.
I don't think Peavy will. Howard probably won't.
I don't think so.
Prince Fielder probably won't. Lincecum's interesting.
Yeah, he may gain enough to stay on the ballot at least a year or two.
That peak he had was so crazy high. Pierzynski is gone.
Yeah.
Teixeira will stay on.
I think you're right. So we're going to have the vote will be announced on the 25th. And I think we'll do a podcast right after that to drop that week so we can talk about, geez, how did we do? And we'll be honest. We're honest on this podcast. We whiffed on this or we got this guy.
I think that my guess is that we will not. So we voted for 9 guys. I would be stunned if more than 3 make it in the Hall of Fame this year.
I would agree with you that. And the last thing I'll say, I saw something today that made me laugh. So today is, I think, day 47 days before the spring training that isn't going to start.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform.
And you can follow us on Twitter at Almost Coop.